basically Midtown Fort Collins.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tonight is getting your first deal done. We'll just follow that up with James just talked about the Music District Tour, which I put on there. And then tomorrow night is negotiating win-win inspections for maximum benefit, not for minimum benefit. James, how's that class going to go?
It's going amazing. I actually wrote most of the outline already. It's a really interesting part of the buying process. When you have an inspection on a property and you're negotiating, finding things after you put the property under contract and how that works, what the process looks like, what's normal, what you can use on there, and kind of talking through a lot of options. It turns out it's a really good class. So first time we've ever taught it.
Nice. And then the following week, we're all going to meet here and have turkey on Thanksgiving. James is hosting. Don't show up. We won't be here for real. And then after Thanksgiving, which is already the end of November, which is crazy, we're having seller's property disclosure case studies. So my guess is Tammy is actively pulling lots of property disclosures from all the past deals, including the ones with just lines through them that say, never lived there. And you'll be going through those. Are you going to have one for each person? Is that the goal?
The intent is to have a copy for each person. It may not be, we may pull 15 and print out two of each example. So, but you'll have your own handout.
Yep, and then the following week, the following day, the Thursday night class is closing real estate deals. What's that going to be about?
It's going to be what happens from when you're ready to go to closing, at closing, and then right after closing.
Yes.
So.
Perfect. And as you can tell, Brian gets a break for like 2 weeks in here, finally, after not having a break for a little while. So we'll do introductions tonight as who are you? And we're talking about kind of getting your first deal done tonight, or if you've done a couple, just kind of refresher on that. But all of us should have kind of our why. Why are we actually doing this? So if you have your why and you want to share it, you're more than welcome to. And if you don't, or you would just rather not share it, that's fine too. The second little piece of that is just a really quick, would you buy this or would you not? There's a $320,000 unit. It's 10 units. They're all 1 bedroom, 1 bath. Gross rents are $4,800 a month. For those of you that like the 1% rule, which doesn't usually work in Colorado, that's above the 1% rule. It's actually 1.5. This is a small town in northeast Colorado. It's simply a, hey, would you buy it? Yes or no? Very quick kind of answer. And we'll start in the back with Alan.
My name's Alan, and as for why we're doing real estate, I would like to diversify my investments and look for passive income. And as for the deal, the location is a no for me, so no.
Perfect. I like it. David.
David, my why is also diversification, and yeah, I'll take it.
You take it?
Yeah.
Perfect. James, make a phone call. Sorry, I can't see your name. Eddie?
Yeah, Eddie. I'm here for diversification. I'm a property manager, so anytime I can learn something, I'm all for it.
Perfect.
And yes, it's out of that's too far for me to travel northeast Colorado.
Sounds good. Hi.
Hi, I'm Joel. Just diversification, passive income, and not sure about that. I'd have to see how far away it is.
About an hour and 10 minutes. Northeast to here.
Is it a bed and breakfast?
You could make it one. I don't know that anyone will come. If you build it, they may not come. Yeah.
It's essentially the same drive to Denver.
Not as far as Sterling.
Yeah. And not as much traffic. It's easy. Hi.
Hi, my name is David. I'm with NCREIG. Just kind of learning about the real estate thing and passive income diversification, and just trying to start something.
Perfect.
I'm not sure.
That's fine. Bree, are you going to buy it?
I just sit down.
Perfect. Do you want to introduce yourself too?
I'm Bree. I'm his girlfriend. I'm just interested in what he's kind of interested in right now. Kind of doing things together.
Perfect. I like it. Connie.
I'm Connie, and I'm going to let Jeff know.
Doesn't happen often, so
I love introductions. This is why we do them. Every week I get a story. It's awesome.
we're looking pretty much diversification, personally, I don't think I would do that, not knowing where exactly in northern Colorado. I don't think I would do that deal.
Okay, perfect. Elaine?
Hi, I'm Elaine. I like money.
That's your why?
Makes
sense to me, yeah.
Is that wrong? I'm English, that explains it. No, I would not buy it. I'm scared of small towns in Colorado, in the United States in general.
Perfect. Gretchen?
My name's Gretchen Warlock, and I did not plan well for retirement, so I'm looking for some passive income to be able to eventually retire.
Perfect.
And it would depend a whole lot on the town. There's some towns that nothing happens in, and there's some towns that are really close to other things that are happening, so.
Yeah, this is probably not close to much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Denise?
I'm Denise Malal, my wife. Trying to build an empire for retirement.
Yes.
The deal, I like it, but no, not the distance.
Just the distance.
Yeah,
So if you had a good property manager, would you care?
I would consider that, yeah.
Awesome. Mike?
Hi, Brian. I'm Mike. I haven't done anything with real estate yet. I've just started attending the classes, learning quite a bit. I'm drinking from the fire hose still. So, why would I be doing real estate? Obviously to earn extra income and to pay for future college for kids who insist on going to the most expensive schools.
Right?
Would I do the deal? No, I want to manage the properties on my own, and I don't want to take care of 10 units.
Perfect. Curtis, long time no see, man. Welcome back.
Thank you. I'm Curtis. I'm also looking for passive income. As far as taking the deal, it depends on the town that it's at, because I'd be curious to know what the surrounding market forces would be.
So everybody wants to know the town. It's a Grover.
If that helps anybody.
Good luck. I had to look it up. So it's like in the middle of like two grassland national areas. There's like a little circle of town.
So advertise to like climbers and adventurers.
Yeah. Brian.
No climbing, okay. Like people who ride horses or something.
I am Insurance Brian. My why for real estate is control. I can't control stocks, bonds, or mutual funds, but I can control real estate. And I also would like to build an empire for retirement. I would not do that deal based on the 1 bedroom, 1 bath. That's the first thing that kicks it out for me. It doesn't fit what I want. 1 bed seems to be a little bit more transient of a tenant, plus the distance. And a small
Gotcha.
town. I don't like small town either.
Would
So-
you buy a 5-unit, 2-bedroom, 2-bath?
Not in that small town now.
I know a guy who owns a saw.
It's the same. It's the same. Yeah, so we're all going to teach the partnership class now. We're going to teach you how to totally rehab a deal that's an hour and a half away and totally flip it. Awesome. Michael.
My name is Michael, and I like real estate of all sorts. I am interested in getting into rental properties. I've done a few deals, but no, I don't have any rentals, so that's my primary interest. And I probably would say no because I think it's too far out, and then it's above the 1%, even though I don't know what that means. But maybe that's not a good thing to buy if it's above the 1%.
So above the higher this number gets, the better. The 1% is essentially if it was $3,200 a month, your rent every month is 1% of the purchase price. So if you were at the 5% rule, then you'd be making a lot more per month. So the 1% rule is a rule that you see a lot online, and it's since evolved to the 2% rule because 1% wasn't good enough, so you need to double that to have a 2% rule. But in northern Colorado, typically the 1% rule and the 2% rule don't really apply, especially in Fort Collins and Loveland area. We're seeing,
5% rule.
yeah, if you can find 0.5%, you should probably buy it. But yeah, Josh.
Josh, why real
Are you trying to luck out of the rental then?
I actually had an offer on it this week, but no.
Oh.
Good income.
So you like the rental?
Enough to keep it. As for that deal, I would probably say no based on what's up there. Not because of where it is. There's just not enough information. Rental history, age is going to contribute to maintenance costs and all other kinds of factors that I'd want to look at before I said yes or no.
Yeah.
But so just with what's up there now.
Perfect.
I'm Karen, and we're going into real estate to get passive income for our retirement, and maybe get it to where Tony can quit his corporate job and just join me doing it full time.
And so you can afford trail mix.
So I can afford
Expensive trail mix.
And we would probably not take that. Tony and I are kind of sticking in, where we are with Loveland, Fort Collins, Windsor, kind of along this area. So we would probably not take them.
Perfect. Thank you. Lashana?
My name is Lashana. I'm doing real estate so I can retire early and to help people and help people help me. And I've always wanted to own a bed and breakfast, so I turned that into a bed and breakfast. That's fine with me. Yeah. I'm serious. It's like been a dream of mine.
Doug? Have you met Lashana? Awesome. Jesus?
I am Jesus. I am into real estate and also trying to learn. And my goal is long-term passive income for real estate. And I don't own any properties right now. As far as the deal, well, if I compare the rent I could get for a $320,000 house here for Collins, with that, that's like twice the amount, right? So all the numbers will look really great just with this information. Then we'll have to, it'll spur my interest, I'll say that.
Perfect. James, you got 3 clients. Is it Anna?
Anna.
Anna?
I'm Anna Silva. I have 2 properties here in northern Colorado. Why is, again, the same passive income for retirement. The numbers of this deal are very intriguing, so it sparks my interest as well, and I would take a look at it.
Perfect. 4 trips to Grover. I'm making James really busy. And all of you should go individually. Don't go together. Merry Christmas. Joe.
I'm Joe. I am into real estate because it's a whole lot less volatile than other alternatives for investing. Would I do the deal out in Grover if I knew that the next I-25 was going to go right through
You would get together and create a bed and breakfast with Lashana and Doug. Partnerships is awesome. I'm teaching everything tonight. Forget it. Tammy.
I'm Tammy, wife of real estate retirement, and I've looked at that one. I mean, I haven't physically looked at it, but I'm not sure that would be for me.
Okay.
And I think actually, if I'm remembering correctly, it used to be like a retirement home, which is probably why they're all one bed, one bath.
Now the secret's coming out.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It probably has a copper fire system that's worth $30,000 if you rip it out. Discount on the price. Nice. Jim?
I'm Jim. Real estate has been good to me in the past, so that's why I do it. I've always had, I got into it with co-owners, and so it was the only way I could afford to do that, and that's worked out well in most situations. The deal in Grover, I actually owned a tax lien there at one time, and it paid off, so at least.
That's awesome.
That's where it's at.
But,
So wait, somebody actually paid your tax lien off and they didn't lose their property to
actually made,
you.
25 cents or something. No.
Perfect. But somebody
But I
still
mean,
wanted their property in Grover.
Property redeemed.
That's good.
I would do the due diligence on that.
Sure.
Determine, there's not enough information there to really know. On its surface, just 10 units, 1 bedroom, 1 bath out there, probably not would be my inclination, but you'd want to look at it. And to answer your question about, depends whether the interstate, where the next interstate's
Did you know that the interstate from Denver to Cheyenne was actually gonna follow 85 up through Greeley?
Yep.
Which would have made Nunn and Pierce and all those little
Yep.
places and all.
The hottest thing on the map.
It would, yeah.
Yeah.
Instead, they rerouted it here and made the hottest intersection in northern Colorado, right here on 34 down in Loveland.
Yeah.
And Fort Collins laughed at that, saying, no, it's gonna be 14.
Yeah.
Duh.
Yep.
So, I mean, you'd wanna look at that. It also depends, you know, I mean, sometimes you find goofy things that comes with subsurface rights or something.
Yeah.
I have a co-partner that has a place in Windsor that it just keeps paying. I mean, it's just a little old house that just keeps giving to them.
Yeah,
So
that's awesome.
you just have to check things out.
Yep. Yeah, Gretchen.
Is the 4,800 a month, like, is it full, and this is pretty much of a consistent?
Yeah, $4,800 a month is the total rent. So you have to take vacancy into account for that, right? Which in a town like that, I think 10% is probably a reasonable estimate.
I just looked up the population. Any guesses what the population of Grover is?
Don't tell us yet.
Oh, do you have it up there?
No, I don't, but don't tell us yet. Let everybody else finish. Yeah, 7 people live in Grover. Who still wants to buy it? Come on. Yeah, Doug.
My name's Doug. Why real estate? I've embraced my destiny that I'm going to own a small island in the South Pacific.
Yes. Come on.
Took a while to come there. Exclusively on what's on there, I see the word R, and it's cash flowing now. I would at least look into it. I mean, regardless of all the conversation in the room, it has the word R, which means that it's cash flowing now. So, tie it up in a contract and get a good realtor and go look at it.
There you go. 5 trips.
Why not?
5 trips to Grover. There's some old, what is it? Revenge of the dish best served cold? Yeah.
Wendy, sorry, I'm just Wendy.
Your name tag is gone, yes?
So I'm Wendy. My why is the same probably as most people's here, except for one thing. I've been in property management for most of my adult life, and low end for like corporations and stuff, like leasing agents. And I'm too smart to make $12 an hour. That just ain't right. So, and you know, also I don't have any retirement or college money. So,
Right.
you know, I have a lot to do.
Perfect. Well, you're in the right place, hopefully. What do you think about the deal?
For me, the deal depends upon the demographics of the town. Is it all families? Because then if it's all families, 1 bedrooms are not going to work. And the economic future of the town, is there a factory coming in or anything?
Yeah. So the ad says there's strong rental history and it's fully occupied right now, I think. So that's all I
would
know.
look at it.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of it being far away.
Yeah.
That doesn't bother me.
Awesome. G?
I'm Jean, she's my daughter. I'm here to learn with her, maybe help her. And my husband always said, don't ever invest in real estate. It's a lost cause. I'm going to prove wrong.
Prove him
That's funny. My dad, my stepmom, who was married to him for 25 years, my dad had rentals, and she basically told him to stop, right? She was like, same kind of thing. And now I've had a conversation with her, and she's invested and done some stuff with me. And she's like, yeah, it's probably the dumbest decision I ever told him was to like make him stop doing real estate. So, yeah, he did stop. Yeah, yeah. I mean, he was a realtor, but he stopped doing rentals. So, Cole.
I'm Cole. I'm new to the real estate business here too. My reason is also like everybody else, is to build up a retirement and some residual income. And like I say, I just have to do due diligence on the deal also to find out, you know, if there's oil or gas drilling that's planned near it. You know, and like I say, if it's full right now, at that kind of an income, we'd probably go ahead and put a deal with it and try to work that into it. So.
Nice. 6 trips to Grover.
You get a big bus now.
Yeah. Beth.
I'm Beth, and I'm here just to learn because this is what Brian does on a daily basis. So I'm here to understand what it is that he's doing, even though he's really good at explaining it to me.
You get private lessons.
I do, yes, that Brian. And no, I wouldn't buy that because of where it is, and there's nothing out there.
Perfect. And we have a special guest tonight. You want to introduce yourself?
I'm Aiden, and yes, I would not buy it.
Good job, Aiden.
James.
I'm James. I do real estate because Tammy makes me. So, would you buy the deal or not? So it's interesting. The payment on $320,000 purchase price, you put 20% down, is about $1,700 a month. And so you're basically making $3,000 a month passive income buying that property. What else is interesting is how much money would you need to set aside in your investment account, earning even 5% interest in order to make that same $3,000 net? Turns out it's about $720,000 is what you need to save up, earning 5% interest in order to see that same $3,000 a month payment. So when you look at it that way, it's hard not to buy that thing. You put $60,000 down, you get $3,000 a month, but it's in Grover.
Nice.
Is Grover from Sesame Street?
I know. The building's blue and it's fluffy. You know, it's awesome.
What shape is it in, you know? Does it need capital improvements?
Yeah.
Does the house gazillion
Probably. Yeah. So I'm Brian Williams, for those of you that don't know me. How many of you guys, this is your first night in class? So the whole back row. Oh, sorry, we missed you. You came in late. Introduce yourself, please.
I'm Austin, from Loveland, that's why I was late.
Oh, no worries.
So yeah, I don't know, getting into I just graduated with a finance degree from University of Washington in Seattle.
Nice, congrats.
Investments is kind of like my go-to for everything, and I'm just adding real estate into that for the past 6 months. I've been doing a lot of self-education, and so this is my first meeting with.
Cool. Awesome. Well, you're going to be confused here when people say UW. They're actually not talking about where you went to school. It's the University of Wyoming here. But so I'm Brian Williams. I do long-term buy and holds in Fort Collins, Loveland, Greeley, Evans, Windsor. I've also done partnership deals and lease options and other stuff like that. The reason I put this deal up here is because it's actually on the market. So if you are seriously interested, you should call this guy. But I'm about to destroy all 6 trips he needs to take to Grover. So how many of you have come to the class that's titled something like CapEx, the Silent Killer, or whatever, right? Let's break this down. How much a month is this in rent for each unit? $480, right? 10 units. So $480 a unit doesn't really leave you much room when CapEx actually gets added in. So if you haven't seen that presentation, right, on paper this looks amazing. Right? Hey, it's $3,000. You need to save up $700K. Yeah, maybe Grover's not your, first choice for somewhere to actually go. But this is exactly like buying a $32,000 house in Indy that gets $500 a month in rent. Would you buy that? Not a chance, right? And if you don't know why, the presentation's posted, or come see me after class. But James is probably not driving to Grover because he's probably talking you out of buying the deal before you go. Because long term, you may be able to buy this and make some money short term, but long term on this, you're gonna lose, right? And the numbers are in the presentation to prove it, and that's not tonight's class, so I'm gonna totally just move on and keep going. What if you offer half? You're probably not gonna get the offer accepted. Oh yeah, tell us, 600?
No, it's like 150. That's the high estimate.
Perfect.
10% of the population.
Oh, really?
Under one roof.
For the record, when you look at the map, it's literally like 4 streets this way and 2 streets this way. So they probably have a shortage of housing. I mean, there's probably 20 houses.
So that unit is 7% of the population. There you go. That unit alone.
So there's 4 people living in each.
Do they have a street light?
I doubt it. They have 2 yield signs. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and if anyone's here from Grover and that's where they grew up, I'm really sorry. So tonight is really about getting your first deal done. If you're here to get your first fix and flip deal done, I'm sorry, you're going to be sorely disappointed. That is not what tonight's about. It's really about buy and hold. It turns out that I taught this class almost a year ago to the day when I went back and looked and updated the presentation for tonight. And we had taught it right after we kind of walked through the class that was setting yourself up budget-wise, and so there's a little bit of that review in the beginning of this presentation that I'll touch on. Really, what's your goal? And so a lot of you answered a different question than I was really asking, which is what's your why? You answered kind of what's your goal, right? And for some people, it's financial freedom. How do you guys define financial freedom? We know Doug wants to have an island in the South Pacific. That's his financial freedom. Denise is building an empire. Then she's going to have a show on TV called Empire or something like that, right? But what does financial freedom mean to you guys? What is it? Is it dollars? Is it a bank account that has 10 million in it? Time. Time, lifestyle.
Being able to supersize McDonald's and not have to think about it. We're going to get there.
Gosh. And with that, James is teaching the rest of class. Is it wealth, right? Wealth to me is, in the specific definition, is having a lot of money, right? There's passive income, which is cash flow usually, and then there's the wealth building aspect of real estate, which is usually happens from appreciation over time. And is it for you, right? For some people in this room, right? Like Royce, who's not here, just graduated from college, has a job, he's like 25 or almost 26, and for him, it's definitely for him, but it's also for his kids and for his future family, right? There's some people in the room, as you heard, that don't have enough for retirement now, and so it's clearly, how do I get enough for retirement for me, right? And it totally depends on your perspective and where you're at. Is it more time with family and friends? Time to me is a great answer, right? There's one thing you can never have more of, right? And it's time, right? We all are on a ticking clock. And how do you quantify that? Is it actually hours that you spend with family and friends? Or is it quality time? Is it quality time doing something in the South Pacific on an island, right? What does that mean? Hey, I want to go travel. I want to have a ski lodge. I want to have a beach home. I want to drive, 3 Lamborghinis. What does that look like? Charitable causes. There used to be somebody that came to class that basically said they wanted to have enough passive income, I think it was like $1 million a month, to go do charitable stuff. I'm like, fantastic, right? Can you pay your mortgage with passive income? For a lot of people, that's just a huge win, right? If you got to the point with passive income and you were just paying your current mortgage payment, you're basically living for free. How much time do we spend at a job earning money to pay our mortgage or our rent? The majority, right? That's really the biggest expense that we have. And then add on all your bills too. And does that mean 5K, 10K, 25K a month? Oh, the door is locked, maybe. Oh, it's just the wind. Welcome! So is that 5K, 10K, 25K a month? There's been nights where we've gone around and people name all sorts of different numbers, right? For some people it's 2 or 3K. For some people it's 50K, a month. So really, what's your goal? Is it 5 million in a bank account? 10 million, 25 million? James says, yeah.
A good start.
So there was a really interesting, it was either an article or a chapter of a book that Kiyosaki talks about his definition for wealth. And his definition was wealth is actually the number of months you can live without having to work.
Yep. And
so it's not a dollar amount, it is kind of like a months of time that you have enough money to do that. And if you have enough passive income, it becomes infinite.
Right. Yeah. And so if it costs you 10K a month to live, and you've got 5K a month in passive income, and you've got $1 million in the bank, how many months, right? And that was his measure. So it's one good measure to use. I don't know that it's a be-all, end-all measure. And then what's your plan to get there, right? So if you don't know the answer to what's your goal, everything else is really hard. And if you ever sit down one-on-one with me, and this happens a lot to people that come that are new, and they're like, hey, I'm going to do wholesale, and then I'm going to do fix and flip, and then I'm going to buy and hold. And I'm like, whoa, let's back up. What are you trying to accomplish, right? Because you hear the infomercial says, hey, you can make money tomorrow wholesaling. Just go out, find a deal, and sell it to Brian for $5,000. If you have that, call me. But beyond that, right, what are you trying to accomplish? And would you be better spent focusing on that instead to get where you're going faster? So what's your plan to get there? Begin with the end in mind. James, where's this quote from?
I think it's Stephen Covey, although I know he said it. I'm not sure if he's the originator, but it's Stephen Covey-esque.
Yeah, so that's exactly right. And begin with the end in mind, right? Where do you want to go If you don't know, figure that out first and then start down that path. And your plan, it's not like, hey, I made this plan, I'm going to stick to it no matter what. It's just a set of guidelines, right? Don't get caught up and adapt your plan as needed. You may start out in this market, or 4 years ago you were like, hey, I'm doing all buy and hold. Or 8 years ago you're like, I'm doing fix and flips, right? And now you're like, hey, lease options are the thing where I'm going to make more money than if I just did a straight buy and hold. So adapt as needed. And don't be afraid to change your plan. Just don't change your plan every week, right? Don't come to class, oh, I'm doing fix and flips, and 2 weeks later, I'm doing buy and holds. And 3 weeks later, oh, I'm going to do wholesaling, and 4 weeks later, you're going to go be a handyman, right? Don't switch around like that. And avoid shiny object syndrome, right? How many of you feel like you have shiny object syndrome? Yeah, good. I'm glad somebody raised their hand. It's like, no one. And I'm like, look, a squirrel. I'm like, it's like, what? Yeah. So what I think is super important is map out, like, here's where I want to go. I want 3K or 5K or 10K in passive income. Map out financially what that's going to look like. How are you actually going to get there? It's one thing to say, hey, I want 10K a month in passive income. And then you're like, but I have $1,000 to get started. Okay, well, let's lay out a plan. How do you get to 10K? Are you going to buy houses? Are you going to partner with somebody? What are you going to bring? Are you going to do the work? Figure that out and see what that looks like. Not just tomorrow or a year from now, but 5 or 10 or 20 or 30 years. And then remember, it's just a set of guidelines, right? But it guides you towards where you want to be. Another super important point, if you don't already have a budget and you haven't documented where you're at, it's really hard to get where you want to go. Know where you're at today in order to get further. How many of you feel like you have passion for real estate? Sweet. I hope if you're in this room, you're raising your hand, right? And if you're not, that's okay. You're finding out, hey, do I have passion for this? And am I gonna really want to do this? Why do I say that passion is required?
Because it's hard.
Because it's hard. What's going to happen when things get hard? Are you going to stay in bed? Are you going to stay up late to work on it, right? You're creating a business. This isn't like, hey, I'm going to go buy a house. You're creating a business. You've got to have some passion for that. And if you don't, it's going to be hard to get up early. It's going to be hard to stay up late. It's going to be hard to have the hustle that's needed to actually succeed. And most of all, right, it's the taking massive action thing. That's what James and I talk about all the time in here, is go take action. That's what's going to get you to where you want to be, right? We try and like solve all the problems in 2016 that you could possibly have, right? That was our goal for 2016. James says in real estate, and I'm just like overall. But if you aren't taking action, you're not going to make progress down that path. So, you know, if you don't have passion, it's really hard to get up and go do something for 12 hours and then get up and do it the next day. Set achievable goals that are going to help you reach your plan. And that's really kind of all I have to say about the plan to get there. James.
So I just want to comment on one thing about the plan. So what's nice about anyone who's interested in doing Nomad is I've already outlined the exact plan for you. And I've set the intermediate goals. I've documented all the math. I basically made it super easy that if that is your model, it is done for you.
Yep. And you can, in Nomad, we typically talk about it like buy one house a year. But if that doesn't fit into your ability to have savings, you stretch it out, right? And you say, okay, instead of doing it one every year, I'm going to do it once every 2 years. And James can do that math for you too.
And actually, there's no excuse for having to stretch it out because we've documented the model where you can do the entire model where you get 20 rental properties starting with a single $3,000 upfront down payment.
Yep.
And you can even, if you're willing to pick a house that's USDA or you have veteran benefits, you can do the whole thing with zero down. So.
Yep. So there you go. If you're serious and you're willing to take action and you've got some passion, you can make it. So when I asked what's your why for real estate, now that you're going to see this slide, other than kind of, hey, what's your goal, what do you think I really meant? What's your why? Pin drop.
What keeps you going?
Yeah. Why are you really doing this, right? It's not probably just for money, right? It's the underlying aspect of what makes you get up and have the passion, right? What's that?
What it will do for you.
Yeah, and so, you know, if your thing is charitable causes and that's why you're doing it, or you're going to help the homeless or whatever, that's great. But when the going gets tough, if you don't have that underlying why, it's going to be hard to stay motivated. It's going to be hard to have that passion and get up and go, yep, I'm ready to go. So most people answer, hey, I want money or wealth. I think that is probably not enough for most people. I'm sure there are some people that are just, all I want is money, and that's the goal, and that might be enough. But at some point, if things aren't going really, really well right away, you're going to run out of gas if you don't understand what your underlying why is. The path of least resistance, if you have a job and you're trying to quit your job, it's really easy. Hey, I'm not motivated. I'm just going to keep my job, right? If you really want to quit your job, get on that path. If you want to think about it some more, what are you going to do with the money, right? Are you going to use it to get time to spend with your family, right? I think time is, again, one of the most important points. Are you going to help the homeless? Are you going to end puppy mills? What are you going to do, right? What are you going to do with that money? When you think about it, that why should be the thing that kind of gives you the chills, in my opinion. Find that thing that matters, and I think that'll help you succeed. Any questions on the why? James.
So we have a mutual friend who's a financial planner, and I think he gave us both his book, but it was a really interesting financial planner book that has you determine the amount of money you want, but then it has you go back and say, now why do you want this money? And it has you go up and do higher level values with each one. So it's like,
yep.
I want this money so that I can take care of my kids. Well, what about taking care of your kids do you want? And it has you go and really drill down into those values. It was an interesting exercise to do if you haven't done that.
Yeah, I would encourage you, even if you know what your why is, just sit down and think, just keep asking why. Hey, I want the money, right? Why do you want it? I want time with my family. Okay, what are you going to do and why do you want that time, right? And just write it down almost as a staircase of ask why, ask why, ask why, until you just can't answer the question, and then look at what the values are that you've kind of written down and what's important to you. Cool.
So would that be a good book to get? What's the name of it?
I don't even remember the name of it, like values or...
Values and financial, yeah, I don't know what it is. I think you can do it on your own.
Yeah.
It's really just what I said.
It really is. The exercise is you ask yourself, why do you want that? And you kind of think about what's the next level up. And you keep asking yourself until you clarify.
Yeah. And so those are the things I think you need to know kind of behind the scenes before you get started, right? And I think a lot of times it's like, hey, to get started in real estate, you need to go talk to a lender and you need a real estate agent. Well, you need some stuff behind that if you really want to be long-term and be successful. Build your team. Number one, who are we going to need? Very good. It's James. And he is the best there is. He'll never stand up here and say that, and he never pushes himself, so I get to do it for him. So I'm going to get my license, and you can call me. $1? Really? I know you have bigger bills than that. That's garbage. And I will just say that I've tried other agents, and it's not even close. If you think you have a good agent, flat out, you're wrong. Like, go work with James and do a deal, and if you still think your agent's better, he'll pay you $100. But most agents just really don't have a clue, right? So as an example, I had an agent who used to call me with potential lease option clients, and she would call me up and be like, hey, there's this person, they're trying to buy a house, but they can't quite get a loan. And that's what I did. I would step in and I would buy the house and I would lease option it back to them. She probably sent me, 40 or 50 people. And one of them actually ended up being a good person, which isn't that, you get a lot of bad people as far as they're just not qualified or they don't want to buy the house. But the person she sent me was almost a really easy one, where the person thought they were buying the house, they were under contract, and they were 3 days from closing. And she was actually this person's agent, as well as the seller's agent. We're going to start crossing some, which is fine. You can do that if you're either a transaction agent or the seller's agent with a customer agreement. But he basically couldn't get a loan. His credit score was 3 points shy. And they didn't find this out until 3 days before closing. Right? And in fact, his loan officer had not even processed his application. So if you're the realtor, in this case, you've already done a pretty poor job. She called me. I stepped in. and bought the house, and it was a successful transaction in the fact that I bought the house and that I owned the house, but everything else was completely crazy. She didn't understand how to write the contract. I basically had to tell her, right? The only thing she was really concerned with was getting her commission, right? Walk away, right? Just call James. So that's all I have to say about that. And a lot of people think this, right? Why should I just have one agent when I could have lots of people bringing me deals? I've been in this position, right? And I was like, hey, I'm just going to talk to a bunch of agents and whoever calls me. And we covered this in James's class, right? Who's going to call you? No one. You're my agent, you're my agent, you're my agent, you're my agent, you're my agent. Hey, when you get a great deal, call me. Are you going to call me first? Or are you going to call your client that actually has done deals with you?
Oh, yeah.
Right? So now I do a deal with you, and you're like, awesome, Brian's my client. And then Doug calls me the next time, and I'm like, oh, and you find out I did this deal with Doug. And are you calling me the next time with a deal? No, probably not. So a lot of people think that's a great way to go. You might want to rethink about that. What's your relationship with your agent? Buyer agency, should you sign one? Again, we covered a lot of this stuff. What was the name of the class? How to be the ideal client that your real estate agent calls first with the great deals. Probably you should sign one. And if your agent isn't willing to terminate that, if you're unhappy, then you should probably find a new agent. James, are you willing to terminate if somebody's unhappy?
In my agreements.
Yeah.
I don't want you to be unhappy because I don't want you to go around telling people that you're unhappy.
Right. James values his reputation over money, which I think is good. Transaction broker, this is kind of what she was trying to do, is be a transaction broker, but she was not doing a very good job of it. Or seller agency, where the buyer is the customer, right? I think if you're going to buy houses and they're investment properties, you want someone who knows the investment market. So build your team, call James. Yep, make him drive to Grover. Sign a buyer's agency and tell him you want to go to Grover. I will love that. I will give you $5. I have $5 for all of you. So when you're building your team, I shouldn't have pushed the button already, but what's the most important thing now that it's written up there? What do you think the most important thing other than a great agent is going to be? Everyone can read tonight. I love it. That's fantastic. I think this is super important, right? If you are, especially for you, if you're interested in what he's interested in and you're not supportive, right, that sucks. If Beth was like, hey, Brian, this is dumb. We shouldn't be doing real estate. That would be really difficult. I'm like, hey, let's go buy an 8-plex. She's like, that's stupid, right? That would be terrible. It'd be really hard to be successful if people are dragging you down. Find new family and friends if that's the case. Most of you think I'm joking. I'm actually pretty serious. Mentors, right? Find people that are mentors, right? And don't just find somebody that, hey, this person's doing real estate. They've done real estate for 20 years. You should ask some good questions, right? Are they actually successful, right? There's a lot of people that talk a really good game that don't know much about real estate, right? When it comes right down to it. Are they actually happy? Do they have passive income? And how much, right? Are they super successful and are they wealthy? And do they know what are they able to teach, right? And you don't want to find the great fix and flip master if you're going to go do a bunch of lease options, right? You should find the person that is a mentor for what it is you want to be successful in. And hopefully they understand your market. Has anyone in here taken who does the fix and flip class? The one on the radio all the time. Come join our team. We have lots of openings in Fort Collins and Loveland.
I don't know. Rich Dad? That's not Rich Dad. It's some other guy.
There, yes. Fortune Builders. How many of you have been to like a Fortune Builders like day seminar or more than that? Yeah, so they don't know our market, right? They don't understand our market. Hey, you can go out and find a house at 70% value minus 10K minus expenses. And you find that and you bring it to us and we'll pay you 10K for it. Okay, yeah, if you find that, call me. I'll pay you more than 10K, right? It's just they don't understand our market. And then when you go back and tell them, hey, this is what our market's like, they're like, no, it works. Just go do it, right? Because they don't have time to understand Fort Collins.
They actually do sessions with local mentors.
Yeah, but they're looking at the whole U.S. and their program is very much the same. So attorneys, we talk about asset protection. You need good asset protection. You need a good lease. All the contracts and docs that are related to that. If you ever need to do an eviction, right? Have a good attorney or attorneys, right? In most cases, this is probably one attorney, two attorneys, and probably a third attorney. So could be kind of crazy. Mortgage brokers and lenders. There's a bunch of them. James and I both have referrals if you want them. I think they're the same people, so you can ask either one of us. Insurance agent. We have one in the room. He's sitting in the back. Insurance Brian. Find a good insurance agent who you like and trust and want to work with and who can get more than, in my opinion, more than one quote. Right? If you go to a State Farm agent, how many quotes you getting? One. Where's it from? State Farm. How are you going to compare it? Are you going to go call every insurance agent on your own, or are you going to find an insurance broker who can just go do that for you? Home inspector. Is this important? Yes. Yeah, you should just use Wes, my home inspector. His background, find somebody that's back. Do you know what it takes to become a home inspector? Nothing. Like nothing. Like take a class, pay your fee, and you can be a home inspector. Is there even a class? I think there is. If you want to get certified, right? And so,
Wes's phone number?
Wes Knackstead, it's K-Bar Inspections, K-Bar Assessments. I don't have my phone. We can give you his phone number. Yeah, Knackstead is Knackstedt. But I would much rather have somebody who has past experience in environmental, or he has a ton of experience. He's got like, I can't even name all his experience, but I ran into an agent. It's a plug for Wes. Should get $1 from him too. I ran into an agent at a real estate meeting, or I ran into another home inspector, and he was like trying to give me his card, and I was like, I already have a home inspector. And he goes, oh, really? Who is it? And I told him it was Wes, and he's like, oh, then you don't need my card. He's the only other person I would recommend. I actually sold my business to him when I moved out of town because I knew he would take care of my clients. That says a lot, in my opinion, because this person came highly recommended from another good friend of mine. Yeah, he goes anywhere. Yeah, you tell him where to be, he'll be there. Title agent and a closer, right? At some point, if you're buying, you're going to work with a lot of title companies because usually the seller is going to get to pick. But if you have one good one for deals that you're doing and you get to pick, they can be pretty important. CPA, bookkeeper. I'm not going to drill down too much on this. And then kind of all the stuff that once you own the property, you're going to need to have done, right? Handyman, cleaners. It's great to have a cleaner you can call that knows you, that you've paid a bunch of times, and say, hey, I had to move out. They moved out early. I need it cleaned like tomorrow. Because a lot of cleaners are like, yeah, I can't clean it for like 2 weeks. Right. It's crazy. Stuff is just super busy. The same thing goes with the plumber and electrician, right? You have a leak, boy, you better know who to call. There's water coming out from underneath my cabinets in the kitchen. I got that call. It was horrible. It's like, great, shut the water off, and I will call somebody. And I called them, and they were there in less than half an hour, right? And they fixed the problem that day. Same thing for electrician, carpet cleaners, HVAC, and then as needed, kind of all the other stuff, right? Kind of go in an order of importance. Over time, something I think is super important to add to your list is private investors, right? Or you can call it hard money, private investors, friends and family, or even potential partners, not just loan partners, but partners to do business with and invest with, right? At some point, you're going to run out of money, most likely, or you're going to run out of loan spots, or both, right? What are you going to do in that case? If you've got somebody, you get a deal, and you've got a private investor who's willing to, yeah, I'll give you 90% loan to value for a year, and you're able to go get the deal done because of it, because you formed that relationship, that's awesome. I just said that too. So here's a quick recap of how to start. This is not the last slide for the evening. In case anyone's wondering if this is the shortest class I've ever taught, it is not. Set your goals, build your plan, understand your why, start building your team. Obviously, we covered all of these. And get your financial house in order, right? I'm not covering hardly any of this tonight, but go set a budget, right? Know what you're spending. Know what's coming in, know what's going out. Start saving for that down payment. Start saving your $3,000 if you don't have it. They had a study, 62% of people in America have less than $1,000, basically in savings. It's crazy. repair your credit. Get started. This takes time. Shoot for 720 in your middle score or 740. And the really weird thing about repairing your credit is if you think, oh, I'm just going to go pay off my entire credit card or I'm going to pay off my car loan, like talk to a credit repair specialist who actually knows what they're doing before you do that. Because a lot of it does not work the way you think, right? And if you haven't done these, guess what? The new year is right around the corner suddenly. I don't know how. It was July like last week, and it's still July outside. I'm not sure what's going on. But start now. Like, be ready to come into 2017 strong. All right. Now that you've got all that done, you know your why, you got your plan, you know where you're going, how do you get it done? And this is buy and hold. Wow, another slide. This must be Plug James night. All right. In all seriousness, right, get your agent and go over the purchase contract, right? If you really want to vet your agent, have them walk you through the purchase contract and see if they know it, right? It's a 17, 18-page doc now, changes every year or two, updates. Like, do they know the contract? Do they understand what all the sections mean? And if they don't, you should have called James. You better know the contract. I know he knows it because he teaches a class on it, and I've been to it like 5 times. But this is great for you too because you get to be familiar with the contract before you see that deal in Grover hit the market, but it's actually not in Grover anymore, it's in Fort Collins, and you're like, oh, I want to go buy it. Great. If you're not ready and you don't know what the contract is and James writes the contract and it takes you 3 days to go to your attorney and review it, it's too late. I've already bought it. Right? And this is exactly what I just said. It might mean you don't get the deal. You've got to be ready. So get all your ducks in a row. Compare your mortgage broker and lenders. Why is this important?
It can save you money if you get a better lender.
Save you money, but also, what's the most important thing?
Get the money.
Yeah, to be able to get it done and know what you qualify for, right? If you're walking out to buy a $800,000 sixplex and you can only qualify for $400,000 and you don't find that out until after you're under contract, that sucks, right? You're all excited. Now you got to try and patch it together, go find a partner, right? It's not really in the plan. So get recommendations from either people in the room or James and I. We've got them. But go find out, hey, what are your interest rates? What are your fees? Quote them all on the same day, right? Don't just quote them like, hey, I got this one, then I got this one. But find out, hey, this is how much I have for down payment. This is what I have for credit. And don't let them pull your credit, right? Say, my credit score, you should know your credit score. My credit score is a 750, right? And they'll be like, great, we're going to have to verify that. Fine, but don't pull it. I just want you to tell me what the rate would be. I want you to tell me what the fees would be. And like I said, compare on the same day. Find out what their fees are, right? A lot of people have origination fees. A lot of people have underwriting fees, appraisal. Like, what is that going to run? So didn't somebody just have a really crazy single-family home appraisal? It was like $1,800? Yes. Yeah. Like, you would want to know that going in. Like, normally it's $400, and today it's $1,800. That's crazy, right? Trying to get it done fast.
You should ask for where they have that already done. They can just give it to you. I mean, is there a thing called what that is? I need a blah, blah, blah.
You can just ask for they're going to present it in different ways. What's the new? That's after.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I would just ask, hey, what are your fees? And typically they'll send, an email bulleted back that says, hey, appraisal fee, $400 to $500, underwriting 1%, or $695 or $895 flat fee. And there are lenders out there who will pay for your appraisal, and the rest of this is zero. So you can find that, and that's, I think, one of our referrals. Other fees, these are typically always the same, right? Because it's not the lender charging it to you, it's a pass-through fee. Title company would be different, but tax service, flood cert, kind of all the stuff that is all the little charges on the sheet, $12 to send to the courthouse, $6 for stamps, all that fun stuff that you're going to pay no matter what. They're pretty standard. And if you can find a lender or a mortgage broker who has investment experience or who has done investments themselves, it's super helpful, right? They understand the process with Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. Hey, you're buying a rental? oh, I totally get it. This is what I'm going to need from you that's different from buying a traditional single-family home, right? Some lenders, comes down to the last minute. They've never done investment properties. They don't understand. It's like, oh, by the way, it's 25% down and not 20 because this is actually a duplex. Whoops. Do you have 5% extra to put down? Hopefully.
Is there self-education on that? Is there something that, is there a book where you can learn all about that?
We do a whole class on financing 101 where we go
Yeah,
over 2
I think
hours.
that's posted. I think I posted the deck. Did I teach that? I think I taught that.
I've taught one, you've taught one, and we've taught different versions of it.
Yeah.
They're all
Loan
similar.
programs do change, and different lenders have different
Mhm.
programs, so
Right.
you want to make sure your mortgage broker knows their program.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yep. Call and start asking questions, right? And I think I'm going to talk about a little bit of it here. Types of financing. So you've got FHA or VA. I don't know if I actually cover USDA. USDA is basically 0% down. It's only certain areas, and usually it's agricultural, although Olive Greeley.
It's outside the city limits is what it comes down to.
But I think Olive Greeley was USDA, right? Almost all of it? Not anymore? Windsor. Maybe it was Windsor. Yeah. Windsor is USDA. So if you're getting a loan and 0 down payment sounds attractive, or VA if you've got military experience and benefits from that, you can get 0% down if you've got enough benefit there. FHA is typically 3.5% on up. That's not the 1% though, right? Are they down to 1? Conventional.
FHA has some down payment assistance programs where you can get it really close to 0 as well.
FHA, I got mine 0, which is the difference between that and VA was FHA, you still had to have mortgage insurance.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have VA benefits, there's no mortgage insurance.
Yep. And so smaller down payments, but your offer typically looks weaker to the seller, right? Especially in our market where people are coming in all cash, right? You're putting down 3.5%. If the house doesn't appraise, do you have another $20,000 to make up that difference, right? That's why the offer may look weaker in one aspect. FHA is also super picky sometimes about, is it in a certain condition, right? Does the roof need to be replaced? Is there paint that's peeling? Stuff like that. Is there a tile in the shower that's falling off? Some of the things where you're just like, okay. Some closing costs can't be paid by the buyer, which is nice. And appraisal deadlines, which is crazy, can be extended just as a part of it being FHA. So again, if you're the seller and you don't have control over that and it can just be extended, it makes your offer look a little bit weaker. Conventional loans. So this is kind of 1% on up to 20, 25, 30, and sometimes higher than 30%. Larger down payment, obviously, but much stronger in terms of an offer, right? It's kind of your traditional, hey, I'm buying a house, I'm putting 20% down. And it is easier to get it accepted. All cash, this is really easy, right? I'm not getting a loan. I'm just going to come in with a briefcase of $1 bills that James gave me and dump them on the desk, right? You can have a super fast closing, right? Especially if you don't need an appraisal. If you're buying all cash, there's not a requirement for an appraisal from the lender because there is no lender. So you can get the deal done very, very quickly in all cash. And all cash may mean that you're bringing all cash, or it may mean that you have a private lender who's actually loaning you the money who doesn't need an appraisal, right? I've had that happen where it's like, I need to get this done in 30 days or less. The appraisal is going to take 5 weeks, and my private lender's like, it's fine, I'll do up to this loan to value, and we'll be fine with no appraisal. So that's where private lenders can also be super helpful. Everything being equal otherwise, all cash looks really good, right, to a seller. This is just in here because there used to be a lot of condos for sale. There's very, very, very few now for sale. But who can tell me what an unwarrantable condo is? Does anyone know?
Condo that's not able to be warranted.
Ooh, I know.
Yeah. Who can tell me the real definition, other than the definition of words? Brian.
It's usually in complexes where the ownership is lower than a certain percentage, so there's a lot of lots of renters in a condo complex.
Yep. So most of you know I own a condo in the Timbers. The Timbers actually just sent their newsletter out and basically said we are well above 50% investment properties, right? And that basically means that if you go to a bank and say, hey, I want to buy, even as an owner-occupant in there, you're going to need to put 25% or 20% down because it's unwarrantable. They look at it as a higher risk, so it makes it a little bit harder to sell because you can't sell to someone with FHA, right, they're going to need to put more down.
So note on unwarrantable, that's a really generic term, and
Yeah.
sometimes it could be that there's litigation against
Yep.
the HOA or other things. And there are lenders, like I think Elevations
Yeah.
Credit Union can do an owner occ for an unwarrantable where you're only putting like 3 or 5% down, but it depends on what the reason is. So
Right.
it's kind of a sticky area where you just want to find out
Yep.
the particulars.
Yeah, you don't necessarily have to pass if you're trying to move in, but just be aware that in a typical situation, if you're buying it as an investment property, you're probably putting 20 to 25% down on an unwarrantable condo. And it can be because the HOA has, yeah, it's probably going to be an adjustable.
I'll
Yeah.
add one more thing. So FHA just changed their rule. It's no longer 50% for FHA. I think it's 65%.
Oh, that's nice.
Yep, that was recent.
65% of investment, yeah. So that's a pretty high number, actually.
It is.
That
It's
actually,
significantly improved the ability for you to get FHA.
yeah, because I think in the timbers it was like above 50, but when I bought mine, which was several years ago, it was like 51% or something.
And
So,
check with your lender. Don't like just say, oh, James said it's 35, I'm getting a loan automatically. Go ask your lender.
yeah. Yep. This is all stuff you have to go verify to be ready when that deal hits so that you can make the offer and be right on target. What can you afford, right? Are you going to go buy $10 million properties that are 100 units, or are you going to go buy a single-family house in Evans for $170,000, right? Really need to decide, kind of again, back to your plan, where are you going? How are you getting there? Are you buying 10 single-family homes, or are you buying one multifamily with 20 units, right? There's pros and cons to both of those. Obviously, if you have 3.5 to 5% down, consider Nomad, right? There's a whole book, a whole set of classes on it. Nomad is awesome. Or find a money partner, right? If you don't have the money, this is what the partnership workshop that we canceled on December 7th is about. So you can't come to that and find out all about it, but we'll do it again.
We delayed it.
We delayed it, yeah. If you've got 20% down, consider 30-year fixed conventional, right? Locking in rates while they're low is fantastic. Whether or not rates ever really go back to 7%, 8%, who knows? They did recently jump half a point. Yep. So in one day. So that's all I'll say about that. Get pre-approved, right? And get pre-qualified if you can. A lot of the lenders now are pre-qualifying. Like you used to need a house, right? Hey, I will loan you, X dollars as long as everything you told me was true. That's pre-approval, right? That's what a pre-approval letter says, is basically, we agree to lend you this, but this isn't a commitment as long as all this stuff is true, right? Pre-qualification, if you actually are pre-qualified, they're actually going to pretend like you had a property under contract and qualify you all the way through underwriting, right? That's much more valuable if you're a seller and somebody hands you a pre-qual letter versus just a pre-approval letter. I would much rather see the pre-qual. Like, I know you're going to actually, you're this far from getting the loan, you just need a contract and to send in a couple documents. That's much, much more favorable towards the seller. For pre-approval, hey, this is my situation, this is how much money I make, this is the debt that I have, this is my credit score, and they're going to be able to tell you roughly what you're going to qualify for, right? And that's super important. Find out what you qualify for. Don't just be out there randomly looking. You're going to have to prove it, like I said, and then get the letter from them, right? Don't wait until you find the property and then call them, hey, can I get the letter? Because if it's Sunday and your bank's not open, or you can't get a hold of them because they don't give you their cell number or whatever, right? You're out of luck. Now you got to wait till Monday, and somebody else is going to swoop in and put that property under contract. Cool.
So now, for the pre-approval letter, do all the lenders use like the same figuring, or would it be
Same figures as far as what?
as figuring out what your pre-qualified?
It's going to be close, right? Lenders vary depending on what kind of loan type you're getting. The requirements for Fannie are the same, but then lenders have requirements that they can impose on top of that. So the underlying may be, hey, your back-end debt to income can only be 45%, and then they impose, okay, if your credit score is 680, it can only be 42%.
So don't just rely on one lender then?
Yeah, I mean, I would find, your top two lenders and ask them, hey, what are you pre-qualified for? Yeah. And like I said, I already talked about this, right? This is the get pre-qualified, get fully underwritten if you can, because then Unless you go out and do something silly, which James and Tammy will send you emails reminding you, please don't go buy new furniture and put it on credit. Don't go buy a new car until your house closes, right? People do this, and they will pull your credit again before the loan is given, like the day before. And so if you went out, I got my property under contract, my loan is approved, I am good to go. You show up to the closing table in your new Mercedes, guess what? You're not getting the loan. And it happens.
And some are not even as obvious. There was a couple
Yes.
that were getting married, and they went and opened up a joint bank account, and the banker said to them, hey, would you like overdraft protection on your bank account? And they said, yes, we would. And that actually triggered an additional line of credit on
Yep.
their credit report, which actually impacted their rate, and they had to get a higher interest rate for their mortgage.
Yeah. So once you put a property under contract, don't do anything financially without asking, right? Here's the stuff you typically need to submit to your lender. A loan app. This is going to detail all your assets and liabilities. How hard would it be if I said, okay, everybody go home right now and pull out all your statements, write them down, and create essentially an income and expense statement for me? How long would that take you? A long time. The goal is that it takes you like less than an hour, right? Go put this together tonight, right? Go put all, hey, here's my last mortgage statement. Here's my taxes. Here's my insurance, right? Have that ready. I can tell you as a fact that every lender I've worked with is like, you are the best client. They ask me for something, and within 5 minutes, I've emailed it back to them, right? Organization is key. You send it back to them that fast, they're on your side. You're building, hey, I've got great rapport with this person. Everything I need, he just sends me. I'm going to get this file done first, right? And that's going to help you out. W-2s for the last 2 years. Go put these in the folder. When you get it, scan it in, save it. Pay stubs for the last 2 to 3 months. Most of this stuff's online for most people now. Tax returns for the last 2 years. Store your tax returns digitally. Don't just stick them in a shoebox. Yes, if you were here last week, don't shoebox it. And all your checking, savings, retirement, investment, have all those account statements somewhere that's easy for you to just put in a folder and send. I used to have a folder when I was doing a lot of Fannie Mae stuff because Fannie Mae is considerably harder loan-wise, more documentation required. I had a folder on my computer's desktop that was just lender info. And I just updated it when something new came in. So a lender, I had to apply for a loan. I just was like, here you go. Here's all the stuff. And they're like, I didn't even ask for this yet. I'm like, yeah, but you're gonna. So here you go. Underwrite me. Go. And then proof of funds, right? Do you have the down payment? You've got to have your proof of funds. And then you will get just nutty requests from lenders, especially the Fannie Mae loans. They will ask you, you know, sign a letter that says you actually lived at these addresses. And you're like, well, of course I lived at those addresses, right? You'll get crazy things. They will want, if you have an HOA on your property or any of your rental properties, make sure you have the statement that actually has your name and the address and the amount that is being paid. And you will find that some HOA statements have like one of those. They like send it out and it's like, says like a code number for your invoice and then $200 a month. And that's all that's on it. And it's really hard to get some of that. So get it early, put it in a folder, and then be ready. I can't overstate being organized and being ready when you're getting loans. Any questions on loans? Financing options? Yeah.
We're having trouble finding someone to give us a home equity line of credit on a rental property. Is there somebody that does that around here?
James has a referral for that. I don't remember his name in the email, but yeah.
Yeah, it's not very high. I think they only go to like 80 or 85% loan to value.
That's fine.
Yeah. Yep. Any other questions? Yeah.
It's a credit question. When you have hard inquiries on your credit, do you know if it's based on 1 year from the time that inquiry was taken out, or is it based on a year? Do you know when those go away?
I just know that depending on how many you're doing, like it's supposed to be if you're going to go car shopping, right? It's supposed to be, hey, if a car place hits your has a hard hit on your credit, that all of them within 30 days are just count as one. Now, whether that's actually true and they're accounting that way, I don't know. I don't know when they kind of fall off. I'm not sure that them falling off matters as much as the fact that your credit score takes the hit when it happens. And so it's just however long it takes for your credit score to come back up. Yeah, unlike some other things where it's like, hey, after 3 years or 7 years, this should disappear from your credit report. And a lot of times those won't disappear either. You'll actually have to call and try and get them removed. Determine your buying criteria. So we've got our loan figured out. We've got our pre-approval. What are we going to go buy? Are we going to buy multifamily, single family, condos? What does that look like, right? And where are we going to buy them? Are we going to buy them in Grover? Are we going to bed and breakfast? I love it. If you turn that into a bed and breakfast, I'm going to go stay there. I will book at least 1 weekend a year if you buy it and do that. But do I get a discount? That's my question.
Good home discount.
Yeah. What's your price, right? And this is the weird thing, and it comes back to the plan is, would you rather have 20 single-family homes that each cost you $200,000, or would you rather have, 3 multifamilies that were worth the same value, right? So think about that. It makes a difference when you're planning. What do you want as far as size? Are you going to go buy all 6-bedroom, 3-bath houses? Are you going to buy 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartments, right? What makes sense? What kind of tenant clientele do you want? Do you want, what does a 6-bedroom, 3-bath house typically attract? Large families, right? Or executives, depending on the quality of the house in the neighborhood, right? Either somebody who is willing to pay $5,000 a month in rent, or someone with a really large family or extended family, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, but just decide where do you want to spend your time with tenants, right? 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, and even 4 bedrooms are the most common. 1 bedrooms, my property manager will tell you that he actually loves 1-bedroom, 1-baths. He's like, they're easy to turn over, and they're easy to rent, and they tend not to have issues. Yeah, so there typically aren't kids, but they tend not to go down as much, I think, when the market actually takes a hit, because it's the lowest kind of bedroom-bath combination. So, condition. Do you want Grover condition, which I don't know what Grover condition is, or do you want, completely clean, ready to go, move-in ready, or do you want something in between? Are you going to go fix it up yourself, right? And are you taking that into account with your financial situation? And what's your bar for cash on cash? So if you're buying in Fort Collins, what's your current goal for cash on cash return the way we analyze properties here?
15%?
No. Yeah. So I mean, in Fort Collins right now, the way we analyze properties, which is pretty conservatively, it's really hard to find stuff that's in positive. Right? It's not, you're not going to go find 10, you may go find stuff off market that's 10 or 12%, but it's super unlikely, right? Even when I was buying in 2013, cash on cash was like, with me managing it, was 5 to 6%, maybe 8% at the top, right? So, plan accordingly, but know what your bar is, right? And if it's unreasonable, James will help, hey, we're probably not going to find this, we can go look, right? But after you've analyzed 100 properties and the highest you've seen is 2.5%, you're going to know 10% is not reasonable. So you'll have to do the work, but understand what your minimum threshold is for that, and then don't waver on that unless you're being unreasonable, right? If you find a house that's, I'm looking for 5%, and this one's 2.5%, but if I can lower the expenses a little, and I take out my vacancy, and I have a little less maintenance, and now it's 4.8%. I'm going to buy it because it's as close as I found. You're setting yourself up for failure, right? Don't do that.
There's a lot of outside market condition pressure pushing cash on cash down right now.
Yes.
I mean, property values are going up really rapidly, like 10% a year, but rents are going up, but not quite the same rate.
Not anymore, yeah.
Yeah, plus we're seeing significant increases in volatility and interest rates because of election stuff. And so you factor in those 3 things, and it's
tough.
really, really hard to find good, positive cash flowing, cash on cash properties, especially Fort Collins and Loveland. Greeley, you probably could still do decent numbers, but it's Greeley.
Yeah, says it all.
Call it like I see it.
All right, I'm going to have to pull up a chart from a presentation where I convinced James that Greeley's amazing. Return on investment. So cash on cash is one measure, right? It's, hey, every month we get a check for $50 or $100 or $200 or whatever that looks like. return on investment, when we look at that, cash on cash is just one measure. That's our passive income. Now, when we look out 10 years and we say, hey, I had to put $60,000 in this property to buy it, what's my return on that $60,000 when I start including everything, right? Not just cash on cash, but appreciation, depreciation, and what am I going to say? And debt pay down.
And cash on cash.
I got that one. Yeah. So combine those four things and understand, hey, what are you looking for return on investment, right? And this will sound crazy, but for me, I'm looking out in year 10 and simple interest-wise. So if I stick $60,000 in and I hold it for 10 years, right? What kind of return are you expecting before I tell you what I think is reasonable for me? Name some numbers.
I think top 10% of investments is about 30% per year.
Okay, everyone but James name some numbers. What do you guys think? James says 30%. Year over year. So every year, if you held it for 10 years, you put 60,000 in, you'd have made 30% on that every year. So that's 18K a year. That's what simple interest is. Basically, you made 18K every year. When you look at it across 10 years, some of it's going to come later, most likely because of appreciation. What do you think a reasonable number is?
Is that equity and cash flow that you're?
Yep, so that's appreciation, so your equity, both from appreciation and debt pay down, your cash on cash, and your depreciation. 25, 20, higher, lower? 17 and a half. Right, so I'm looking in year 10 to year 15, I want to see at least like 28% for my investments and up to 40, right? And that seems crazy, but that's why we're in this room, right? Those are kinds of returns that you're not going to see from a lot of other places, and where real estate is a much more stable market, at least in our area, for doing that. And this should always be an ongoing discussion, right? The market is constantly changing. If you're like, hey, I'm looking for buy and holds, 5%, Fort Collins, Loveland, and suddenly, you know, the market changes, prices come down a little, interest rates drop, and now we're seeing 8%, and you're just getting the 5% list, and you're buying those like crazy. And then James is like, oh, well, yeah, it's 8% now. That's what we're seeing in most places. So have that ongoing discussion with your agent, and James will let you know how you're doing.
Yeah, so if you're listening to this recording after the fact, or you're reading a book or anything like that, it's really hard to use book numbers or, you know, a year-old recording or going on a discussion forum and seeing stuff without knowing what's actually happening.
Yes.
Because what was true even a month ago in our market is not true today because of interest rates.
Yeah, it's 7:23 p.m. on 11/16, and this information will be invalid in 3 hours. Yeah, that's what James just said in case you couldn't hear me. Don't utilize this in 2 years to make judgment calls. Finding properties. So your agent, James, will send emails with properties that meet your criteria. It's super easy. You can get them once a day or twice a day or every time something lists. If you're really being active and you're taking massive action, especially in the multifamily market, you should be getting them immediately, right? Because I'm getting them immediately and I'm calling him like 10 seconds after I get it to tell him, hey, let's go see it. So you want to be on top of that to go see him.
And acting immediately can make the difference, as we found out very recently, of getting a deal or not getting a deal.
Yep. So I recently bought an 8-plex in Loveland. It hit the market, and they already had an offer in hand. And I was like, they said they were going to counter the offer, and the offer was from the person that was managing the property. So they had intimate knowledge. And it sounds like the agent actually just listed it to try and get some more exposure because they felt like they were maybe not being treated correctly from that particular property manager. They listed it. I saw it. I called James probably within 2 minutes of it listing and said, what's going on? They found out, hey, there's an offer they're going to counter. And I basically said, sight unseen. This was my other point that I forgot to mention from the opening slide. Sight unseen. They're like, the owner's out of the country, can't do a showing for a week. Am I going to wait a week? No. Not a chance. It's an 8-plex in Loveland. What are we going to do? Like, find out what the counter is and write the offer. Tell them, I'll beat the counter by whatever it needs to be, right? So wrote the offer and basically put some pressure. James put some pressure and said, hey, my guy's solid. Let's get it done. He's offering above what your counter is. And by 3 p.m. that afternoon, or even sooner than that, probably by noon, the offer was signed, contract was done. They had about 16 or 17 people that wanted to see it because they actually figured out how to do a showing that afternoon, and they basically canceled everyone but our showing. So then I got to go see one unit. Did I care? No, right? So you have to be willing and you have to understand you can put this under contract, sight unseen. You always have a way out in your contract unless you really write your contract in a crazy way.
If he had waited to the next day, he would not have gotten it.
Nope.
So what is your,
Yeah.
what is the exit then that you would have if you got there and you went, well, I don't want to.
So you can object based on inspection, right? I mean, they know I hadn't seen the units, but part of the sales job that James did with me was, hey, he's bought larger units than this, sight unseen, put them under contract, and he closed in 30 days or less, right? And so James has some ammo with me because I've done deals that are similar to that, but it's almost everything is fixable, right? And so you could always go and say, okay, when I finally saw the 8 units, it actually looked much better than we expected, but it could have looked much worse, right? And it would have been okay because the price actually made it okay, right? If they had had those 16 or 17 showings, I'm guessing it would have sold for 100K more.
You want to tell him what I did to you?
Yeah. James is a real jerk. On the slide where I have your name, why you should use James, because I didn't know the contract was signed. I was actually at the bank trying to get everything done, earnest money, blah, blah, blah. And he calls and he's like, hey, they got, the property manager countered and they went 25K above, but they said if you match it, they'll accept it. And I was like, fine, done, right? And that was the decision. I didn't go back to the Excel, right? And then James goes, awesome, I just made an extra 25K. Yeah. And I was not quite in the right mood for that joke.
You had it under contract. That was the good news, but I was trying to mess with you.
Yeah. Yep. So then I was like, I'm not sure what I'm paying for it, but either way, I'm happy. So the lesson there is hustle, right? Have everything lined up. If I didn't have everything lined up, if I didn't know I could make a phone call and make sure my private lender was okay with doing the loan, right? I put it under contract. I called my private lender. A day later, he was like, yep, we're good to go. Like, you want to have stuff lined up. So look at the listings that you get. If it meets your criteria, and honestly, yeah.
How do you handle it if you find a property and it's okay, it fits your criteria, but the rest of the neighborhood just sucks?
Buy the rest of the neighborhood too. So seriously, I mean, it depends. This really comes back to your analysis, right? Is the neighborhood going down, right? Is it on a downhill trend, right? You want to go find that out. Is it just that things are run down and that, over time you feel like stuff's going to get, kind of updated and people are going to come in and buy? Or is it a neighborhood that's just going to be flat forever, right? And that's really where you've got to go do the research on, hey, where is this neighborhood going? And then the other piece is, how much am I going to get for rent? Does this deal make sense on its own first? And then let's look at the neighborhood, right? And if you go and you drive through the neighborhood and, a bunch of characters are standing around during the middle of the day with nothing to do, maybe it's not the right neighborhood, right? There's totally people that have that investment style. It's not mine. But, if you drive through the neighborhood and you see people taking care of their yards, it's just, a kind of rundown neighborhood at that point. Maybe it's okay, right? So it's really determining for you what your investment criteria is and what you're willing to deal with in terms of location and neighborhood. Do you have an example, like neighborhood or house that you saw that I can be more specific for you?
I was down in Oklahoma last week.
Okay.
And there was like 2 pretty nice houses and like 6. You almost need a bulldozer.
Okay.
But like a couple blocks down, you could tell it was pretty nice. The yards were good. There's no bars on windows or anything.
Good.
But it's kind of scary with that one block is that bad, and like 2 or 3 blocks, it's okay.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be a pioneer.
Right. Did you talk to people in that neighborhood?
No.
So that's definitely something I would suggest is, roll your windows down, get out and take a walk and find somebody that's mowing their yard and be like, hey, what's going on with these houses? And let them tell you the story of, that person died, a year ago and nobody's maintained it. So that you can understand, okay, was it just you know, these 4 people that are living here, are these rentals, right? I mean, some people just don't take care of their rentals at all and let them run into the ground. The other question I would have for you comes from the beginning too, which is, you know, what's your rent to price ratio? And are you buying, you know, is it a $50,000 house that's getting $600 a month? And if so, go read the CapEx presentation and probably pass. But if it's a neighborhood that's actually going up and the value's increasing over time, right? If you look 10 years ago and the property's worth 50K and they're selling it for 50K today, in 10 years it's probably gonna be worth 50K, right? And in the long run, you're gonna lose out to CapEx in that situation. So, see me after class if you wanna keep going on that.
Well, I'll tell you one side story. So I was in a relatively rough neighborhood with my father looking at properties once, and we're, you know, looking at MLS sheets and driving around looking at houses, and we're going through a neighborhood that was kind of rough like that, and we're pulling sort of out of the neighborhood, and a police car cuts us off and stops us in place, and pulls up to the side window, and he says to me, "What are you doing in this neighborhood?" That's a sign that you should not be there. Yeah. So when a police officer pulls you over and asks you, "What are you doing in this neighborhood?" you know not to buy there. It's not a good rental neighborhood.
Yeah, and so this is really this is where people go above and beyond too, right? If you pick up the phone and call the police, or go meet with them and say, "Hey, you know, I'm thinking about buying property in this neighborhood. What's going on here?" Right? Find the people that know, right? I have a friend that actually went and talked to the mayor in Wellington to try and find out what the growth was going to be, right? Like, do above and beyond to get the good deals, right? Again, it comes back to massive action. Whatever you look around the room and you go, okay, that person's doing this. If I'm doing the same thing, I'm not going to be any better than that. So how do you kind of step above and take better and bigger action to get better and bigger results? Call James, yes. So there's a ton of tools at jamesorr.com. Are any of them locked?
Almost
all of them? Yeah, so a lot of them are locked down for clients. My spreadsheet is available for free on the Meetup site for analysis. Most of you already know that. It's under, if you need the link, it's ncreig.com/files. It'll take you right to the files section, and then just search on Brian's analysis spreadsheet, or just search on Brian. I'm sure it'll show up. If you can't find it, call James while you're on your way to Grover. If the numbers look good, call him up, say, hey, let's go see this. He likes to go show properties, especially in Grover. Yeah, I know. You're going to take at least one trip after class for sure. Use Kahlo Property. How many of you guys are familiar with kahloproperty.com? Excellent. Kahlo Property is basically the public-facing version of what James uses behind the scenes, right? So it is the most up-to-date. I was actually going to put on here just for James's benefit that, like, you should only use Zillow. But Zillow and Redfin, they're not as good. If you're using them for comps, that's fine, but this is the most up-to-date. Lots of people, I've had people try to do wholesale deals and send me something that they're like, hey, this property's on Zillow, did you see this? And it's been under contract for 3 weeks, right? The first thing I do is go to Kahlo Property, type in the address, I'm like, it's active backup, it's like under contract, why are we talking about this? So, you know, take the most up-to-date tool. This is great if you're looking at, you know, things that have sold and you're trying to do comps. That's fantastic. Open houses. What are open houses for? Fun. I agree. Fun. Beth and I will be driving through the neighborhood and be like, hey, there's an open house. You want to go? We pull over and look. And
For realtors to find clients.
yes, it's for agents to find clients as they walk in, right? So be aware that it's most likely, in a lot of cases, not the agent that's actually selling the house, that's showing the house for the open house. They're trying to find clients. So you're walking into that. Be aware of what you're walking into. You can go. I mean, it gives you, if you have open houses in a neighborhood you're trying to buy in, I would always go, right? It's just an extra free house that you get to see the condition of. You can kind of say, hey, what do you think this would rent for? You can pick the agent's brain. They're probably going to be wrong, unless James is doing the open house, which maybe you could get him to do an open house in Grover, which would be amazing. Yeah. At the showing, what happens? And so for those of you that take the journey tour with us, maybe James and I will role play our traditional what we do at a showing for the first one.
Oh, yeah.
That actually could be super interesting so that you can see kind of the interaction that we have and kind of the discussion about, you know, what does this look like as we're walking around the house and all the things we kind of typically discuss. But look at it from your future tenant's perspective, right? Are you walking through a bedroom to get to the kitchen, right? Yeah, that's not going to be very good. You know, flooring, paint, layout, appliances, you know, and which ones are there. What are the size of the bathrooms, the kitchens, you know, everything that's in there. And then you're looking at stuff that's systems, right? Go look at the furnace. Does it look like it's a gravity furnace from 1905? You know, that's going to be expensive to remove and replace. You know, go look at the water heater. Is it 15 years old? You're going to need a new one as soon as you buy it. So kind of look at everything. Look at the outside in the same way. How is the roof? How is the yard? Is it fenced? Do you allow pets? How many of your people are probably going to want a fence for their dog, right? Almost everyone. What do the gutters look like? Is there tons of water running between the gutters and the roof, right? Easy to fix, but, you know, time consuming, costly. Is this something that the majority of people would be attracted to? This is super important. There's some houses that's like 10% of the population would ever live here. This is not the house to buy as a rental in most cases, right? If that's your niche, fine, or niche, however you would like to say that, perfect, go do it. But if it's not, find the thing that's appropriate for the masses, right? You don't want your potential tenant base to be 7 people in Grover. You want it to be 150, right? All of them. Grover is so fun tonight. I love it. How updated is it? When are you going to have to update this? You know, are the cabinets in the kitchen from 1970? That may be fine. It may be a paint job. You may just choose to leave them, right? Depending on what the kind of rent that you're charging is for the property. If it's a $900 a month rental, cabinets from the 70s might be fine. If it's a $2,100 house per month that's a $350,000 house, cabinets from the 70s are probably going to make it a lot harder to rent. Paint them white. How's the curb appeal? So one of the things James and I do, we finish walking in the house, we'll walk around the house, and then where do we go? Down the block, right? What does it look like from this end? What does it look like from that end? What are the other houses that are around it, right? Just like what you said, oh, I got this great house, and then I got 4 really ugly houses that aren't being kept up in Oklahoma. So look at everything. Walk a block in each direction. If you don't, you may find out that there's like a mobile home park that is not being maintained a block away that you didn't see, right? Look at it on Google Maps too, obviously.
Or a train track you want to run up.
Yeah. Stand around. We saw, it's going to be story night. We saw a property which had 2 funny things. We were talking to the tenant. It was a 4-plex on that street in Loveland that curves around that is a little rough. Butternut? Yes, thank you. Butternut in Loveland. It was a 4-plex, and we walked up, and there were like some of the brick on the outside was new, and we're talking to the tenant in the unit where the brick was new, and we asked him how the train tracks were. He's basically like, you get used to it, but you have to like pause the TV and wait like till the train goes by to be able to keep hearing. And then, just for fun, we asked him, like, what happened with the brick? And it literally looked like from the outside, it was like the shape of a truck, like in the brick. And he was like, well, the guy upstairs drove through the wall one night when he was intoxicated. And then they basically had it was awesome. It was like a truck hole in a 4-plex that had been replaced with new bricks. You would always see this truck entrance point. But anyway, and how is the rest of the neighborhood? This is where talking to the people. Roll down your windows, go talk to people. You will find out more than you're going to find out by looking at Google Maps. So figure that out. Are most people keeping up their yards? It's one easy way to see. Is there pride in the neighborhood, right? Is it all rentals where nobody's mowing the yards? Or is it, hey, people are watering their yards, they've got good landscaping, they're keeping it up? And this is a serious question. If people are just standing around, it's crazy. Like, avoid it. I would just like walk away. We saw, I don't know, it was a 22-unit building in Greeley, and it's like across the street from, like, it's not that far away from property I already owned at the time. And we like showed up at like, I don't know, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and like the whole area is just like a bunch of people looking at us, and they all just stop. And it's not like they're like, oh, somebody pulled up, I don't know them. It's like this. And they just like watch you. They don't do anything else, and they like just watch you the entire time. And then you leave and you get in your car and you're like, what are you supposed to be doing? Why are you watching me? Why are you all here? It was crazy. So be aware that, something's going on there, and you might want to dig a little deeper. How's the neighborhood? Drive it at night. Drive it in the morning. What does it look like kind of before or after your showing? Drive around kind of a bigger perimeter. During your showing, write down all sorts of stuff. What it's going to need repair. And then when you get back, one of the questions that typically gets asked in class is, well, I don't know how much flooring is going to cost for this. Use really rough estimates, right? For paint, $1.50 a square foot. So you need to paint an 1,800 square foot house, multiply it by $1.50. Close enough, right? Flooring, $2.50 to $4, depending on what you're putting in, right? Could be higher. But call your flooring company ahead of time and know, or call them afterwards. Hey, 1,800 square feet of LVT installed, what's that run? And they can tell you. It's very easy to get kind of the rough ballpark very quickly. And then obviously use that for your analysis. I will tell you this, and James will laugh. After you've seen enough properties, you will no longer remember what was wrong or what each one looked like or anything. So write it down. If it's interesting to you, write it down. More stuff from the showing. Discuss the rent range for the property. So James and I are usually walking through the house, and I'm like, hey, what do you think rent's going to be? And he'll be like, $600, and we'll be in a $400,000 house, right? He's usually a little low. But in seriousness, he's usually, in 2013, he was like, I'd probably rent for $1,400, and it would really rent for $1,600, right? He doesn't want to be high, because if you base it on what he says, and you buy the property and you're not successful, that's not good. So you need to go do your own rent comps, but this is definitely a discussion to have. I got questions, yeah.
Do you have any, would you change anything you said? Would you recommend buying rentals here for students around CSU? Did anything change like curb appeal or?
So it's all knowing your market, right? If you're buying around CSU and your intent is student rental, then buy what appeals to students, right? If you're buying something that is, there's a lot of brand new apartments going in that are really slick looking, right? Granite countertops, nice hardwood floors. So in some sense, you're competing with that. But if you own something that's right across from campus, right, you just need to keep it up so that it's in rentable condition, right? It doesn't necessarily need to be as fancy, but just know that what your rent range is and figure that out by doing the research, by looking at Craigslist and seeing what's for rent, what's the rent range, and what's the condition from the pictures you can see, and then try to go see some of them. Does that make sense? But I wouldn't avoid buying, I'm not a student rental guy, but I wouldn't avoid buying student rentals as a blanket statement. I think student rentals have made a lot of people a lot of money over time.
I have a few, but I haven't seen them in forever, to be honest. I have property management company and they just bring money.
Yeah.
And it's awesome.
Yeah, so if you have some and they're,
Now, I remember just going looking at those properties, like, oh my God, I don't want to buy this, but they still make all the money.
yeah. So do you still have them? Yeah, so if you haven't walked your properties, I would highly suggest walking them with your property manager. Some property managers will let things really run down. So just for your own check-in, go look and see, right? Because some property managers have totally different standards, right? Yeah. Yeah. Yep. But I would see your property like at least once a year, even if you have a property manager, just to see that it's in good condition. Yeah, Gretchen.
Wouldn't student housing be really a bad idea?
No. Lots of people have made a ton of money on student housing. They usually rent for the full year, right? So otherwise it would be, if you buy a house and you only rent it for 9 months out of the year and then you have it vacant for 3 months, that's on you, right? But if you rent it for the full year, there are still people that are coming into town in the summer and want to sublease, but they know, hey, you need to pay rent from August 1st until July 31st. Yeah. Hey, Suze, did you have a question too? All right. Do you have a question?
The biggest factor, I've rented to both students and families, and the biggest factor I've seen is when you're renting to students, you have to have a detachment with your property because it is going to get damage that it's not going to get with the family.
Yeah, see, I can't teach the whole tenant screening class tonight, but if you have your tenant screening done really well, you can hopefully avoid most of that. And then on top of that, what you're doing is you're attaching a parent or a co-signer to that so that you're not covering the damage if it does occur, right? So we want to protect you and your asset as much as possible. And tenant screening is, as you guys know, because I found it, like that's like the #1 protection of your property. So, you know, having that cosigner can at least cover your damages when they happen. It's impossible to prevent everything, and you know, students are definitely more prone to, some students are more prone to partying than, you know, some adults, but not always. Any other questions? Perfect. So discuss the rent range for the property, and this is again, you know, I just can't say enough about James. He knows the market. He's done a lot of investor stuff, and he's done investments himself, so he knows what's going on here. Always be aware of who is at the showing. If it's the other agent or the seller themselves, be aware of what you're saying. You don't want to give something away that basically makes negotiating harder. And James will tell you that it would not be unheard of for somebody to put a camera or a microphone in the house and have a recording of what you're saying. So I would highly suggest you keep your discussion generic until you get outside, or make it at a super low volume inside. Huh? I think so, yeah. Be hard to prove anyway.
Why would they, well, don't you have to disclose when you're recording somebody?
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as the person doing the recording knows it's being recorded.
Yeah, which seems silly. Of course you know it's being recorded. You're recording it. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't, I mean, if you're going to bring it public, sure, you may need consent in some ways, but if you're just using it for your own negotiating information, good luck.
Yeah.
Because they have that.
Yeah. So if you're walking through the house and you're like, you know, what's this listed for, James? And he says, oh, it's $350, and it's like, you know, I think it's worth like $425. Right? That's crazy. So don't jeopardize your position. If you're seeing a unit and it's got tenants in it, talk to the tenants. Hey, how long have you been here? What do you pay in rent? How do you like it here? Is it noisy at night? Is anything not working? Right? Find out as much as you can possibly find out from the tenant. In almost all cases, they have no reason to lie to you. Right? And in fact, if they're actually thinking tenants, they should be going, the property's for sale, this is a potential buyer, this could be my next landlord. Right? I would like to encourage him to fix, hey, the dishwasher has been leaking for 7 months and they won't fix it. Right? And then that's your opportunity as a landlord that takes over to build rapport really quickly by fixing some of that stuff. I just covered all that. And your blink is important. How many of you have read Blink by Malcolm Gladwell? Everybody write it down and put it on their book list. Go read the book. Basically, your blink is your brain is obviously more powerful than we can consciously think about. And when you walk into any situation, right, meeting somebody for the first time, walking up to a house, whatever it is, you've got a blink reaction, and you kind of go, no, right? And James and I, the other day, we went and looked at a property, and from the outside, it looks nice, but it was like just both of us had the same blink reaction that we talked about after the showing. Like we walked, saw all the units, and it was like, normally this would be something I would like write a contract on, but it was just like there was something off. And I don't know what it was, and it's been proven from a scientific background that your brain is gathering data that you aren't even aware of. So trust that blink, right? If you're going to go against your blink, really do your research. What? Blink. Yeah. Blink by Malcolm Gladwell. Yeah. He's got 2 or 3 other great books as well. So if you read that one and you enjoy it, I would suggest looking up his other books. Analyze the property. So go run rent comps, right? Go find Craigslist. I took this map to show you we're not looking at all of Craigslist. If we're looking at a house that's in this neighborhood, these are the comps. They're not the comps in, you know, Old Town, and they're not the comps in Loveland or Greeley. They're the comps within like a mile for rent, and they should be similar, right? We're not going to teach the comp class tonight, but if you're buying a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, find 3-bedroom, 2-bath houses, look through the pictures and see, hey, what's the condition look like from the pictures? What are they renting it for? Okay, at least you get a rent range. What kind of tenants is it going to attract? And do you Is it part of that plan we talked about at the beginning of the night? And are you going to be happy with it in your portfolio? This is a really interesting question because if you're buying it, you're like, hey, this is a great deal. And then if somebody said, hey, would you like to hold this property? You know, you want to own this in 20 years? And you're like, ooh, I don't know about that, right? You better have a good exit strategy for what you're doing with it before 20 years gets there. So just think about your planning. Plug everything into my spreadsheet or James's online tool, which is essentially a copy of my spreadsheet put online. We did that on purpose so that there wasn't confusion. And then for numbers you don't know, make a phone call, right? You need an insurance quote, call Brian. You need taxes, look online. You need, hey, what's maintenance going to be for this? How old's the property? What condition is it in when you walk through? Go back and look at your notes. Estimate conservatively if you really don't know. Play with the numbers. So if you're not sure about rent, which is always the number one thing that people are concerned about. Hey, I don't know if this is going to rent for $1,400 or $1,700. If it rents for $1,700, I definitely want to buy it. Rents for $1,400, it's like, meh, right? Play with those numbers. Hey, it's really probably going to rent for $1,595, and I'm or is it just going to be break even for a year or two while rents go up, right? Really do your kind of analysis. And there's inside the spreadsheet, there's a basically side tool that is rent, and it shows you kind of all the cash on cash for a wide range of rents. So it's kind of done for you in the spreadsheet. Determine if it meets your needs. So cash on cash and ROI like we talked about earlier. And then think about the opportunity cost of purchasing it. So if you have $60,000 to make one down payment and you find a property and it's just barely meets your criteria, is it worth purchasing that and having it today or finding a better deal, right? If you can only buy one or if you can only buy 10, whatever it is, think about the opportunity cost. And decide if you want to make an offer, and then make the offer. All caps. Yes. Make your offer. And I put this slide in, take action, right? This is what we're all about. Take action, go make the offer, even if there's doubt, right? You look at that Grover thing. Offer in, get it under contract, and then go see it, right? If you have it under contract, you control the property. Don't lose it to somebody else because you've hesitated or you didn't have your ducks in a row. Just go do it. And like we talked about, you've got the contract. That basically handles your risk. Are you able to go have inspection? The owner, the seller clearly knows you're going to go look at the units. If they're like, yeah, they're all in great condition, and you go and like 2 of them are not inhabitable, right? There's an easy discussion to have there. Waiting a few days, or even in our market, a few hours, can make a huge difference. It's that fast. That's why we want to have everything in a row. So here's all the stuff your agent's going to need. What property you're buying, your legal name, the offer price, down payment amount, how you're financing it, seller concessions, date of closing, any contingencies, so inspection, financing, appraisal, how long you want to give the seller to respond. Sometimes it's short, sometimes it's a little longer. Your lender pre-approval or approval. The seller if desired. People have done all sorts of weird things for owner-occupant homes recently, writing a song, send it to the seller, and it worked. They got the house in Denver, right? So pretty crazy.
However, some agents will not pass those through to their sellers because of concerns with like discrimination and other things that could come up later if they actually see all those letters and people have songs or pictures. And
Yep.
so you might do that, but they may never see it. Or
Yep.
you might. You never know.
Yeah, and so if you get a chance to interact with the seller, right, make sure you leave a positive impression, right? Don't be a jerk. Take your shoes off. Show respect, right? The obvious things. And then it gets sent over to the seller's agent, and they're going to present it to the seller. More on making the offer. Earnest money deadline. Typically, we use the alternative money deadline, or James does. Since we sign everything online, it gets sent across to the seller, and then basically just a really quick thought, use that to help finance your closing costs. You're going to buy a property that's $300,000 and you need $5,000 in closing costs. Write your contract for $305,000 and ask for $5,000 back at closing. You're paying the same price. You just got to finance most of your closing costs. Acceptance deadline. James, why would we give them a short deadline?
To have them make a decision before we have other people looking at the property, other people making offers.
Yep, so that's the 8-plex deal we just talked about. We're like, you need to sign before those 16 other people show up for the 1 o'clock showing. If they show up, we're screwed. When would you give them a really long one?
You know, if they're saying in their description that they want time to be able to review stuff, or they need time to review stuff, making a very aggressive, you need to decide by 5 o'clock tonight offer automatically puts you in a kind of awkward position where the seller doesn't like you. They're basically, I asked for more time.
Come across as super pushy and you've already been told, hey, they're at work tonight until 8. They can't review the offer until tomorrow morning, and they wouldn't be able to even really think about it until noon, and you tell them, hey, it's 6 o'clock tonight. They're just like, you can't even do it, right? They're like, pass, I'll just wait. So what happens if you do that and then they sign it after the deadline? Is it valid? Yeah, so the right thing to do is probably amend it, right? But you could also just move forward, and it's probably, as long as it closes. James will amend it for you. MEC, which is mutually executed contract, that using those dates in a contract versus using fixed dates. So James usually uses MEC because if you submit an offer on the 1st of the month and they don't sign it until the 5th and all your dates were based off the 1st,